Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Louise French and this is day 28 of 30 Days of Healing. It's the home stretch now. We've only got a couple days left together in this series, and if there's one thing we've learned during it is that anything can happen and we're quite unpredictable. So the angels have dictated to me everything from which backdrop to use on which days to which outfits or colors to wear on which days. So all I can say is that although this was a 30 days of healing straight group thing that we're doing together, hi Jennifer, that I will be appearing live more often on my Facebook page. It might not be 30 days straight again, but it's taught me just how valuable it is to share what I'm learning from the angels and guides with all of you. And in fact, yesterday's message was pretty damn cool. After I spoke with you, I was chatting with my spirit team about next steps after this and ways that I can support people. And they were suggesting to do a virtual or online retreat, which would be a spiritual retreat where we could all gather together and I could share such wisdom as I have in these weeks, but of course, new information, particularly for those who come to the group, because the angels and guides do tailor it to whoever's listening. And that we could meet together, say from Friday night till Sunday afternoon, like we would if we went away to a retreat. But we are saving ourselves the time and the money that goes into flying or driving to a retreat location and, trying to find sitters or convincing the husband that he wants the kids for the weekend and sleeping on a bed that perhaps doesn't feel that comfortable, and we can all meet together online instead. And so that's something I'm super excited about. I have no idea what timing is going to happen with that. I feel like it's going to be in the next month or so, but costs will be kept down because I've never run one before. I've never run an online retreat before. I've done weekends, but not virtual. So all they've said is keep costs down so it's accessible to people, and that they will be channeling messages like I've been doing in these videos, as well as meditations similar to the ones in this group and a bit like the Year of Healing group, but tailored to those who are at the retreat. And then there'll be exercises and personal reflection time as well, which might be loosely based on the self-reflection chapters in my book. So super excited about that. And in line with that somehow, I'm not sure how the two are connected, but they're saying they go together. Thanks, Jen. I think it sounds interesting too and fun. It would be really cool for us all to get together and see each other's faces and meet like in a Zoom meeting where the screen is divided to all our pretty faces or handsome faces for the men. And we can share and talk with one another in that kind of setting. So that would be really neat, no matter where we are in the world, which is the best part. So today was really cool. So my husband and I went up to the top of Mount Washington, which, although it's called Mount Washington, it is here in Canada on Vancouver Island. And almost 2 years ago to the day, I went up Mount Washington with my parents and my kids. And I just thought I was going up sightseeing, and the views are spectacular from the top. And to go in the summertime, you go up on a chairlift. When we went, there was no snow 2 years ago. When we went today, there was a little bit of snow that hadn't melted up the top. And it was one of those experiences where my dad suggested it. We thought it would be cool. The views were great. And there was one spot that I was feeling drawn to. And I stood there for quite some time, and I thought it was because the view was amazing. It was quiet. There was no one around. And it was just a beautiful place to stand. It wasn't until I came down the mountain and a day or two later, a client asked me if I could do a healing on them. And in the course of doing that healing, instead of just having the angels and guides that I normally work with, there was a shaman who came through to help with the healing. And this particular client had been wondering when her healing was going to happen. And I kept saying, I do it when it feels right, and it's not time yet. And once this shaman came through, I knew that the reason why her healing didn't feel right to take place was because we needed the shaman energy to join in with her healing to help with the area we were working on. And it was pretty amazing for me to realize that although it seemed like the trip was planned by my dad and executed by my family, and that I felt drawn to stand in this particular spot because it was beautiful, it turns out it was all angelically and divinely guided, because that spot I was standing on at the top of Mount Washington is a vortex for this particular shaman, and that's where his energy comes through. So in a sense, I say I picked up the shaman at the top of that mountain and his energy. But really, today I was talking to the guides about it, and they said it was where we connected. So 2 years ago, it was a bit of a shock for me to know that I could do that. But today, I deliberately went to that same spot to stand in his vortex and to be present in his energy. And that might sound really way out there and crazy and strange for those of you who are just beginning your ascension journey, and I get that. Mentors that I worked with, when they said stuff like this, I thought they were a little bit cray-cray. But I can assure you I have all my marbles. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience to be there today. And I felt guided to hold the trees that were in that area. So it's a shame Kara's not on the call because she'd be all excited. But I thought of you, Kara, when I held the trees in that area, knowing that the shamanic energy was connected to those trees as well, and was able to communicate with and exchange energy with 2 of the trees in that area. And then as I sat on the little bench that is right there where the shaman vortex is, this bird came up, which I hadn't heard of before. Well, I'd heard of, but I'd never seen one, called a whiskey jack. And when we looked it up online, the whiskey jack is actually a gray jay instead of a blue jay. And it's native to that particular area, and they're very proud of their whiskey jacks. And he came right up to us, and he had a black and white tail feathers. And I got flashes of like an Indian headdress with black and white feathers on it. It was almost like the shaman was coming through in the trees, in the ground, and in the bird that came to talk to us, which was pretty amazing for me to go and experience. So I went there twice at the time that we were at the top of the mountain. We did it when we first got there, so I knew it would happen. Went and did the tourist thing and took some pictures of the view at the top. And then I went back to sit by myself while my husband went and took some more pictures elsewhere, and just communicated with the shaman energy and absorbed it more to the point. So why is this important to share with you? Other than the fact that if you are one of those amazing people that have had a healing with me since 2 years ago, which is a lot of you, if you go back and look at your healing summary, some of you will see that I mentioned that a shaman came through to help with us in the healing. The 2 areas in particular he seems to help with are the solar plexus, which we've talked about, the area that's below your rib cage above your belly button, and also the heart space healings. He's really good at knocking down walls that we put up around our heart when we're trying to protect ourselves, but we're really doing ourselves a disservice. So he's really good at deep, powerful healings in those areas, and he's come through to help me several times. And he does work in other areas as well, but I thought that would be neat for those of you who have had a healing with me in the last couple of years, if the shaman energies come through, and he doesn't always, it depends on whether he's needed. You'll know that that's where we connected with one another, was the top of Mount Washington. Now, I wondered why they wanted me to share that story with you other than the fact that it happened today. And I was actually going to record the meditation from the top of Mount Washington this afternoon. I'm having tongue-tied issues. But it didn't happen because the wind was pretty strong up the top today, and I was afraid that no one would be able to hear me. So I took a series of pictures. They told me to take selfies, which is not one of my talents. But I took several selfies in that area, and I'm excited to look back and see if I can see the energy in the pictures coming through. So the other reason they wanted to share that with you is, oh, that's a cool word. They said we are deliberate manifestors. So our actions, though we have personal choice and free will to decide things on our own time, where we go and what we do is also dictated by this need that we have as spirit beings to connect with other energy of those who have gone before, ascended masters, spirit guides, angels. And these vortexes that are around the earth are sometimes linked to these spirit beings, and sometimes they're linked to other events or important energy that we need to connect with. And so we might think, oh, I decided that we want to go on a holiday and we want to go up north, and I'm really excited to see this landmark while I'm there. But realistically, there's also this undercurrent that we might not be aware of ourselves connecting with a deeper energy in that spot to help us in the work we're meant to do. And they keep prompting me to tell you about the other vortex I've been to. And this story like blows my mind because it all came together in the coolest way. And this is what I'm saying, like, if you think about places that you've been, it could really blow your mind as to what really happened when you were there. Not just a holiday, but you're meant to be there. And we've been talking a lot in the Year of Healing group about how when we feel guided to move somewhere, it's for our benefit, but also for the benefit of Mother Earth, because we have a deeper soul purpose. And sometimes our energy is required in another location. Sometimes two of us doing similar work, but in a different way, are required to be on opposite ends of the earth at the same time for something to happen. And that's how I feel connected. Lisa, who you've heard me mention, that's been on some of these calls, she and I work very well together and bounce ideas off of each other and help each other in the spiritual work to have faith and trust in our own intuition moving forward with various projects. And we feel deeply connected, like each other's yin and yang, because we have different strengths and we have different ways that we heal energetically. And she's in Australia and I'm here in Canada. And it just feels right. Although I miss seeing her in person, it feels right for us to be doing this work at this time in opposite poles. So if you feel guided to move somewhere, know that it's for your highest good. Know and trust that it'll all come together, because it always does if you're meant to be somewhere. And that story might be for another day, but my move back to Canada was crazy, intuitive, amazing things falling into place. But the other energy I picked up, which they want me to tell you, and they keep going off on these tangents, so blame them. When I was 17, I went to boarding school in England, and I was super religious back then. If you've read my book, Good Little Church Girl Ascends, like, there's a couple chapters of when I was 17 living in England, and things didn't go very well for a church girl living in an environment where no one else was the same religion as me. It was quite challenging. But I was still a good little church girl back then. So all this energy stuff and picking up vortexes and all that jazz, like, I would have thought only weird people talk like that. So I had no knowledge at that particular time of what was going on. But for March break, a bunch of us decided to book a trip to Greece, as you do, because from England to Greece, it was £125. So double it, about $250 for the flight there and back, and the accommodation for a week in a shared house on the side of a mountain. It was a little inconvenient. We had to hop on scooters to get into the mainland, but it was on the Isle of Crete, and it was absolutely stunningly beautiful. And because we rented these scooters to get in and out of town without having to walk a long distance down and up a hill, I was able to go when I felt the need for peace and I was trying to find myself. I would take off on my scooter and go for trips around the island by myself and just potter around up and down mountains and then go back to our rented house. Because I was in a house with like 12 other people and it got a bit crazy sometimes. So flash forward, from 17 to when I was about 40-ish. And I was speaking to another dear friend of mine that's in the spiritual realm as well. That, funny enough, actually she's based in England. Never met her. We've connected online. And I was saying to her the work that I was doing and wondering who these ascended masters and spirit guides that I was working with for the healings. And I said, I know Archangel Michael is prevalent and he's like my mentor and my guide through all of this. And I know Archangels Gabriel and Uriel and Raphael come through at different times, and others as well as needed. Faith appears occasionally. And I said, but I don't know ascended masters well enough to know which ones I'm working with. And I hadn't really thought to ask them their names, which is the weird thing. But in speaking with this friend of mine, her name is Gia said to me, she went and did her cool she does, it's called trance meditative connection to the spirit world. And she came back and told me that the spirit guides I was working with, or the Ascended Masters, sorry, were Ascended Master Hilarion and another one. Or maybe she told me about Michael. Can't remember. Anyway, there was another one, but it's not relevant to the story. And I had no idea who Ascended Master Hilarion was, so I did some research about him. And it turns out his energy vortex is on the Isle of Crete. Not only that, but his energy vortex on the Isle of Crete is on the side of one of the mountains where I went on my scooter to go escape from everyone and have some quiet time by myself. And that blew me away. The other really cool thing about Hilarion is that in one of his previous lives, he was the Apostle Paul in the Bible. And the Apostle Paul is one of my mother's favorite characters in the Bible, people that she admires. And she knew that he was on the Isle of Crete and his connections to that area. Not only that, but when I researched what Hilarion was known for, he was a person who put his hands on a person who was barren or was infertile, and he would heal her so that she could become pregnant. And he did this for a woman who had been barren for 9 years or something, I think in the story I read, 6 or 9 years. And she was able to conceive after meeting with Hilarion. The reason why I think that's fascinating is that at the time, I had been doing several healings on women who I didn't know. Like when people ask for healings, 9 times out of 10, they don't tell me what it's for. They just say they need one. And I prefer it that way. I like it to be completely intuitive, no preconceived notions of what it's supposed to be about. And these women who came to me and said, I just don't feel right, or something's wrong, or I just want your help, I was working on their reproductive organs and cleaning out their ovaries and fallopian tubes energetically and their uterus, and removing energy of past miscarriages and abortions, or past connections of other lifetimes where they would have had miscarriages, abortions, or stillbirths, and helping them to kind of calm down the energy of their sacral chakra and their reproductive organs. And one woman went on to get pregnant a couple months later, which was just amazing, because I found out after her healing that she'd been trying to get pregnant for over a year. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with her or her husband, and she was quite depressed that nothing was happening. And she did not tell me that before the healing. And during the healing, I had this overwhelming sense that she would be pregnant soon. And I now get to adore the pictures of her little baby boy on Facebook, which is pretty awesome. So, yeah, Hilarion's about fertility. And at the time, I was helping people with fertility. And that's not to say that I heal infertility. It worked with that one particular lady. I helped healing the energy of that zone for a lot of people. But I'm not going to say I heal infertility, because then I'd have like authorities banging down my door telling me I'm a scammer. So we won't go there. So yeah, the testimonial's on my website. You can read it there instead. So the cool thing is, though, is that was Hilarion's role. And then he was working with me at that time. And he's from the Isle of Crete. So what I want you to ponder and think about in the coming weeks, months, years, is when you feel drawn to a particular area or space, or what are they saying? Abode, house, abode. If you're called to be somewhere at a certain time, trust that there's a reason why you're there. And it could be that there's one of these vortexes and you're connecting with the energy. It could be like Cara mentioned the other day, that the energy of the tree is spectacular and it heals you while you're healing the tree, because we do have that symbiotic relationship with nature. Or it could be that you're meant to be there. Your presence is meant to be there to help an individual in that place. And likewise, they could help you through the connection that you make together. So trust moving forward that where you go, how you get there, what you feel like doing while you're there is guided by your higher self, your spirit self, your inner knowing, that knows that you're meant to be there at that time. And whether you're there for 5 minutes or 50 years, there's a reason why you're called to be in the area where you are. So that is the heavy and deep version of day 28. So much love to you all. Please don't forget to like and share this post and like my page, Rebecca Louise French, so you get notifications of when I'm live in future. Thank you for being here. Lots of love to you all. Bye.